Hi, everyone, and welcome to the penultimate episode of season 4 of the Fat Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Asha Lamy, and today we're going to be talking about Raven. That's so Raven. Um, I don't know why I picked Raven. I don't know. I think possibly they were a character from a book. But yeah, it's Raven's story today. It's a very familiar story. Just in time for the holiday season and the run up to January. New year, new you. Bullshit, diet culture, horrendous time of the year. I just thought we needed to refamiliarize ourselves with a story that is probably familiar to most of us. I really, really hope that Zoom is sort of keeping the sound of my dog barking out of this recording. If not, I don't know what to tell you. There's somebody parked in our driveway, and my dog is just not having any of it because this is her driveway and someone else is in it. And that is not acceptable. But anyway, I'm going to soldier on because it's late. This podcast is due out tomorrow. Once again, I've left everything to the last minute, and I really want to tell you about Raven. They, for those who don't know, by now, there's been quite a few of these now, where I've kind of taken a group of people that I have met and come into contact with over the last 20 years, more than 20 years of my medical experience, and I've kind of amalgamated them together to create a character for you to get to know. And yes, Raven is based on a group of individuals, but not any one individual in specifically. And I'm not sharing any confidential medical information, obviously, because not only is that completely and utterly illegal, but it's also extremely unethical. So this is my version of a testimonial almost, although it's not a testimonial. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. I don't know what it is. But anyway, it's a story. It's a story about a real person who isn't a real person. And their name is Raven. And for those of you who don't know, I'm using they, them pronouns just because I want to make it as open as possible for as many people to listen into and relate to Raven's story. Now, Raven is 34-year-old graphic designer. I like to really get into these things, almost like method acting. So yeah, they're a 34-year-old graphic designer, very successful. Have this amazing combination of artistic flair and sort of like a very skilled brain as well. They're witty and they're very lovable. They're an A+ student, always successful. Tried really, really hard. Not didn't come naturally. It's hard work and determination that's got Raven this far. And they appear confident. To the naked eye, you meet them, you're like, oh, gosh, they're very confident. They clearly have a lot of body confidence, probably part of the what's the body positive movement, I love the skin I'm in. Yeah. Like wear these really cool clothes and just you know them, you've met them. They're wonderful. And you want to dislike them because they're practically perfect in every way, but you can't because they're really nice. Ugh. Terrible stuff. No, I'm joking. We all love Raven. But despite the fact that Raven is super confident on the outside, they're actually battling a kind of an invisible enemy, as it were. And that enemy is diet culture. Yes, that's right. They are deep down desperately unhappy with their own body, been struggling to control it, to make it smaller for years and years and years. In fact, they grew up in a family where weight was always a subject of conversation. Not unusual. They had a mum who was constantly trying the latest fad diet and telling everyone about it, and a dad who loved to tease them occasionally, make Miss Piggy jokes, or pointing out that they're having a second helping. Nothing too overt, but still really painful and harmful. And by the time they hit their teens, Raven had already internalized this very toxic message that is, runs rampant through society, which is that thinner is better and anything other than thin is a failure. And that's just society, right? That's everybody teaches us that. Our parents teach us that, our teachers teach us that, our friends teach us that, television or social media teaches us that. Everybody teaches that thinner is better and anything other than thin. So fat is wrong. It's bad. It's unacceptable. And you know what? Raven inherited their dad's sort of somewhat stocky frame. That's just everyone in the family, somewhat stocky, broad shoulders, built sort of a bit rectangular. an apple shape, maybe. Certainly not a pear, nothing curvaceous. Um, and, mum's propensity for holding on weight. Mum is always on a diet. And when they're not on a diet, when mum's not on a diet, mum is slightly on the heavier side. Never lets it get too far, though. No. Um, and so by the time they were a teenager, Raven was watching what they ate and exercising to try and lose weight and not eating and skipping meals so that they could be thin and all of that stuff that's just so very commonplace, almost has become normalized within society. And they were an A+ student. They worked really hard, put themselves under a lot of pressure and thrived to a degree under that but at the same time also found that raised their cortisol levels. They always had deadlines they had to meet, and they were always taking on too much and then feeling overwhelmed by it. So that's always been the pattern throughout their lives, through school, through higher education, and then of course into their job. They've got a really high stress job, like sort of a boss that demands so much from them, and because they always deliver, then the boss expects even more. Long days that turn into long nights too, and staying late at work, and just you know life's hard, hustle culture, all that jazz. It's not easy for poor Raven, and it's a very, very familiar story, as I said. So Raven has a very high pressure job, as I said, works late, doesn't have time to go to the gym, prep their own meals at home, like all the kind of meal prep and all the things they're supposed to do. Doesn't have time. Spends a lot of time ordering takeout, let's face it. And in order to meet deadlines, because they're just so busy. And they need to have a social life. They need to be able to go out. They need to be able to have fun as well. There just doesn't seem to be enough hours in the day. And another thing about Raven is that um, they have a history of being in relationships with people that are remarkably like their father. Do you know what I mean? Not overtly abusive, but still just little niggles, little digs, sort of afraid that if they got any fatter, that they would lose their partner's love, respect, affection, etc., etc. So that never helped either. It's just no wonder that Raven is goes through periods of dieting. So periods of living on takeout, not going to the gym, and then for whatever reason, maybe it's the 1st of January, maybe it's just out of the blue, they're feeling a bit low, they make a decision. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna shake up my life. I'm gonna I'm gonna do things differently this time. I'm gonna lose the weight. I'm gonna keep it off. And in fact, it's not even about weight loss anymore. It's about lifestyle choices and good habits, lifelong habits that Raven can continue throughout the rest of her life. Oh dear, sorry, their life. And so Raven's decided, I'm not going to do another fad. I'm not going to do a cleanse or a detox that I learned on TikTok. No, this time round, I'm going to be very sensible. I'm going to be careful about what I eat. Careful. I'm gonna count the calories so that I'm not eating too much. I don't want to eat excessively. That's my problem. I don't eat the right food, and when I do eat the right food, I eat too much of it. That's what Raven thinks. So they're gonna eat the right food. They're gonna watch how much they eat. They're gonna go to the gym, because the gym is exercise is the cure-all for everything, right? Because if you go to the gym, you're gonna have more energy, more endorphins. You're gonna feel good. Everything's gonna be great. It's good for your heart. It's good for your blood pressure. It's good for everything. And like Raven needs to do something to take control of their life and stop feeling like a failure. Stop feeling like that they're just wasting away and that their body is just getting fatter and fatter, and that's just not acceptable, because Raven knows that thin is the only thing that is acceptable. Thinner is better, fat is unacceptable. So they throw themselves into it, as they do with everything, every project. Raven, determined, strong, plenty of willpower. They've got themselves a little app on their phone, and they're counting their calories. They're logging everything they eat. They're logging every time they go to the gym and do that class or do this or do that. They are on it like a Scotch bonnet, as we used to say. And at first, everything's great. Everything's wonderful because the scale is budging in the correct direction. Their clothes are looser. There's a pair of trousers they couldn't wear for ages. All of a sudden, they fit. It fits. Oh my gosh, it fits. I fit in my jeans. And the compliments are rolling in. Everyone is amazed. Wow, Raven, look at you. Have you lost weight? I can tell. Oh, you must be working so hard. That's so amazing. Good for you. Keep going. Sorry. Gross. That was me. If you can't see me and you're just listening, that was me pretending to be sick. Um, where was I? I lost my train of thought. Okay, so things are going well. And you know that feeling when you're buzzing and everything's going well and you've got all this energy, and every time you go to the gym, you're like, yeah, look at me. And you're feeling really good in your jeans that didn't fit. And so you think, I've done it, I've cracked it this time round. I have the answer. You are all ready to win your prize. Okay, so I'm autistic, so this is why I do this. But I do love to interview myself sometimes. I like pretend that I'm like, I don't know, probably it's Oprah. Let's face it. If someone's going to interview me, it's going to be Oprah or Trevor Noah, Jon Stewart, someone cool like that. And they're interviewing me and they're like, oh, Ash, tell me, how did you manage to lose the weight and keep it off? And I'm like, well, just a lot of hard work and determination. They said I couldn't do it, but I knew I could. Like, you become a bit deluded almost to begin with. It's all the endorphins, and that's fine for a while, for a few weeks even, and then like let's just say 6 weeks. Cut to 6 weeks later, and Raven's energy has dipped now. Because the workouts that used to make them feel really good all of a sudden make them feel exhausted, and they are so tired. Like just the idea of exercising is just enough to make them just want to collapse into bed. But they got to keep going. Also, they're hungry. Oh my God, they're so hungry. And all the things they're not supposed to want to eat anymore because they've given them up. It's not part of the plan, dude. Like, the bags of chips and the cake and the ice cream and the anything like with refined sugar in it that just gives you that energy boost that you want. Oh, you can't have any of those. You have to eat kale or the equivalent. And that's just, so that's caught between a rock and a hard place, exhausted and also not allowed to eat. So they're not feeling as good. They really aren't. But they keep going because, Raven doesn't quit. When has Raven ever quit? Raven is an A+ student. Raven works hard. Raven doesn't understand the meaning of failure. And this is important to them, right? This is deep, like existential stuff. This is the meaning of life kind of stuff. This is if thin is the only thing that's acceptable and thinner is better, I cannot fail this because otherwise I'll be fat and unacceptable. And so there is no, like, I don't care how exhausted I am. I don't care how miserable I am. I've got to keep going. That's that feeling. Who can relate to that feeling? I'm just going to keep doing it. 2 weeks later, and the weight loss has massively slowed down. Like they've been tracking it on their little app. And all of a sudden, they're like, what's going on? The scale is not shifting anymore. Those jeans, like, okay, fine, still fitting them, but was hoping to go down another size and hasn't. Like, I've been sticking to the plan. Look, here's my app. No one believes them, of course, because if you're sticking to the plan, the first law of thermodynamics teaches us, of course, that if you're eating less and exercising more, you will continue to lose weight forever and ever and ever until you disappear into thin air. No, that doesn't work. We know that the body responds to intentional energy restriction by panicking. Panicking. There is no other way to describe it. Its defenses goes up, and the more you restrict, the higher the alert. The body is stressed out of its mind. That's what the diet industry doesn't want you to know. The body is stressed the fuck out. It is not happy. It does not want to stay in this period, in this place of restriction. And so it's getting harder and harder and harder, and eventually stops working. You don't disappear into thin air. You don't get skinny. Hey, fat people never get skinny. It's almost unheard of unless they do weight loss surgery. And even then, when they do the weight loss surgery and they become really skinny, chances are they're going to start regaining that weight. They don't stay thin. It is very unusual for a very fat person to ever be thin. Lose weight? Sure. Be thin? No. So like, it's just this impossible dream. Poor Raven didn't stand a chance. Comes from a fat family. Has been dieting since they were a teenager. Like they were never going to get thin, but in their mind, they have to. It's almost a matter of life and death. And in the as far as the body is concerned, this is a matter of life and death. This is a stone's throw away from starvation and death. That's what the body thinks. So yeah, by week 8, the scale's not moving, and it's getting harder and harder. And so by week 10, all of a sudden, it's just gotten a bit too much. They've had a particularly bad day at work. They got told off by their boss. They messed up. They didn't meet a deadline. They got ringed out by their boss. Now feeling really crappy. Got home really late, exhausted. Just just can't be bothered anymore. And there, in the back of their cupboard, hidden away, is a bag of chili heat wave Doritos. Those are the red ones, right? I don't know. I don't eat Doritos very much, but I thought that's the thing that I would say. Hmm. And they're like, nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'm going to do something else. Open the fridge. Nothing in the fridge. Haven't had a chance to go shopping. Haven't had a chance to do meal prep. Oh my God, because they're getting more and more tired. They don't have the energy, the mental energy just to do the food prep. Those TikTok videos make it look so simple. It's not. You have to go and buy the food. Then you have to chop it up using one of those salad chopper thingies. You have to make sure you've got all the ingredients. You forgot one. If your brain's not functioning on all cylinders, you blatantly forgot some stuff. And then you just end up eating limp lettuce and a couple of tomatoes and some cubes of cheese. Disgusting. Not even the good cheese. Bloody light cheese. Ugh. Can you tell that some of this is actually just me? This is not patience I've come across. This is just me now. Anyway, I knew this was gonna spiral. It's late in the day, and I just knew I've been up since 6 in the morning working, and I knew this was gonna go bad. I could tell. But hopefully you're sticking with me because you can relate, right? You know those TikTok videos I'm talking about, the food prepping, food preppers. Ugh. So anyway, opens the fridge, nothing there. And that's it. Raven snaps. Grabs that giant bag of Doritos and just starts eating them because they're so hungry and just fed up because it's not working. And so one handful, then another handful, then another handful. And before Raven realizes it, the bag is gone. The guilt is overwhelming. There's still chili heat wave residue, that orange powder on their hand. The heartburn is rising because it sometimes can disagree with one's stomach, right? Especially if you've just been eating kale. And so it is just like it's a terrible night. It's a terrible night. It's one of those awful moments. Doesn't go, goes to bed early, wakes up feeling like they're hungover. It's just awful. And that was week 10, but they kept going and they were like, do you know what? No, I'm better than this. I'm stronger than this. And they determined to move forward. So they keep going. They go back onto that app and they're like, no, I can do this. And they persevered maybe for a few more weeks until the point in time when actually now my weight's going up a bit. What's that about? My jeans are getting tighter again, but I'm starving myself. Like, this is miserable. I can't drop down anymore. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm doing the exercise. Okay, I can't exercise as much. I don't have the energy to exercise as much, but I'm still trying. I'm still going. Paul Raven's like, what have I done wrong? What did I do? I did everything right. How could I fail another diet? I'm just a failure. I'm a failing failure. And they just stop. The app gets deleted and one bag of chili heat wave Doritos turns into 10 bags of chili heat wave Doritos. Before they know it, back on the takeouts. And they feel like crap. Lather, rinse, repeat. Because that's just life, isn't it? What other options do we have? Maybe there are injections now. Maybe it's time to consider surgery. But if you're not there yet, then this is just your life. I guess, you know, there comes a point in time, hopefully, well, certainly in Raven's story, because I made up Raven and therefore I get to give Raven a happy ending, and I'm going to give Raven a happy ending. They deserve it. So one day they end up on Instagram and they find a post about how diets don't work, how diets are literally set up to make people fail. In fact, that's how the diet industry makes money because of repeat customers. Like they know you're going to fail and you're going to come back. Guaranteed return in investment, right? Return customer, sorry. So they don't have to worry. They don't have to worry about whether it works or not. In fact, they want it to fail so that you come back. If there was a solution, everyone would have done it by now. Nobody's nobody's going, oh, I know it's possible to lose weight and there's a solution, but I'm just not going to do it. No, no, no. Fat people will try anything to lose weight, literally anything. Like there is very few things. We're prepared to mutilate our stomachs, right? We're prepared to literally be cut open and mutilated. We're prepared to take an injection that makes us feel like we want to puke and shit ourselves every single freaking day. We're willing to do that. Um, there's very few things we're not willing to do to lose weight. But if there was a solution that worked forever, then we wouldn't come back. And if we didn't come back, then the diet industry would eventually disappear. And they can't afford to do that. This is billions, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of money. So, no, diets are set up so that you fail. And Raven read one post and was like, what the hell is this? And started reading. And then another post. And then just happened to stumble onto the Fat Doctor podcast. Welcome, Raven. Somehow ended up in my life and started following my Instagram and started listening to my podcast. And not just me, obviously. There are loads of people out there doing amazing stuff. And subscribe to Reagan Chastain's weights and healthcare Substack. Oh, have I done that? Have I said that correctly? Yeah, to their newsletter, and is following a bunch of people who are doing amazing work on body image and found out all about ASDA and the Health at Every Size movement, not ASDA the shop, ASDAH, ASDA. And yeah, all of a sudden realized, hang on a minute, it's not me, it's the diet. I didn't feel the diet failed me. And of course, Raven's skeptical to begin with because it all sounds like it's wishful thinking, right? A bunch of fat people saying diets don't work. Okay, if you say so, whatever, fatty. Somebody sent me a message, it must have been a young kid, and it was just a DM that said, "You're short of breath because you're fat." I didn't realize that I was short of breath because I actually have a respiratory rate of between 12 and 14, so I know I'm not short of breath. But I think because I've always had very blocked nasal passages, so I think I breathe quite loud. And because of that, I must have appeared short of breath. As you can tell, I can actually talk for a very long period of time without drawing breath. I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't actually stopped to draw breath yet, and I can continue going for ever and ever and ever and over and over and over and over again. I didn't even take a breath beforehand. See, I'm not short of breath, but they did assume I was, and they said it's because I was fat. And I get these messages all the time, right? Like just shit like this. I just get it all the time. I don't know. I was in a mood, so I just turned around and I went, I know, and I just wanted to see what would happen. And there was a heart emoji next to it, like the person reacted to it, and that was it, left me alone. Because I was just like, oh, I'm so sick and tired of it all. I'm just sick and tired of being told that you're fat and you're just wishful thinking. You don't know what you're talking about. You're stupid, you're fat, you're lazy, fat, lazy, and stupid. I'm like, okay then, if you say so, if that's what you want to believe, you carry on. You do you, dude. And I get it. I get why people are skeptical. I really do. I was skeptical. I think we were all skeptical at one point in time. And so I guess Raven was skeptical at first too, but there's a lot of fucking evidence out there, folks. I do not just say this stuff because it's wishful thinking. I just finished earlier on today, my sleep apnea masterclass, in which I explained to people that sleep apnea was not caused by being fat, and neither would weight loss help you with your sleep apnea. And let me have a look. How many did I have? I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, almost 20 journal articles. I can list them all if you want, but I won't. They're listed in the masterclass. You've got access to all of them. In fact, you can just click a link and it's right there. 20. I had to read through all of them. I had to critically appraise them, not just read through all of them, because of course, if I just read the abstract and listen to the conclusion, I'm just going to believe what they have to say. And I've learned now that I can't. So I've had to read through them all. go into the fine print. Sometimes I cheat now and I'm like, I get all of the results, which is just so difficult. And I'm just like, Chat GPT, please can you tell me, can you sort this out and summarize it so that I can read it properly? But yeah, yes, I use AI. No, I'm not apologizing. Um, that's just for sleep apnea, just for sleep apnea. 20, I mean, my reference database is huge now. I'm doing this based on science and evidence. I'm looking at what the evidence shows. Um, but yeah, I get why people are skeptical. Even when you present them with the evidence, they're still skeptical because it goes against everything we've been taught. But Raven did it. Raven ditched diet culture, said bye bye, diet culture, gave up on it, learned to eat what they wanted when they wanted. Um, And it's interesting, I think, because when we begin to give up on diet culture, our life shifts in numerous ways that we didn't expect, right? First of all, we're eating and we're having fun and we're enjoying our lives again. We're finding self-compassion, which is great because when you learn self-compassion when it comes to your body, you can learn self-compassion for everything else as well. When you start to realize, hey, you know, the reason that I spend a lot of time eating takeout is because I have a really, really busy life. And I have a really busy life because I live in 2024 and that is the only way to survive. Like I can't, if I want to be able to pay my rent and afford clothes and just basic. I'm not like not living the life of Riley. I am not trying to keep up with the Joneses. I just am trying to survive. If I want to do that, I have to work really hard. And if you're a single person who lives in a pretty high octane industry where people are expected to work until like 7:38 every night and that's just life, what are you supposed to do? Go home at 5? Yeah, fuck it, I'm leaving. You could do that. And that's one of the things that Raven learned is to set boundaries and to say, actually, hustle culture is not for me. But that's not something that happens overnight. And it's okay to be like, you know what, today I'm not making food. I don't have the energy. I don't even have to explain or defend it. I'm just ordering takeout because I can and I want to and I will. And so they developed self-compassion when it came to their eating habits, and that just slowly trickled down into the rest of their lives as well, which is amazing. And they had more energy, right? And it's not because they'd stopped dieting. That's not why they had more energy. It's just all of it. As it begins to trickle down, you get it? You're nourishing yourself. So Raven is nourishing their body. Raven is nourishing their mind. Raven is setting boundaries, taking better care of themselves, prioritizing joy and pleasure. And in doing so, has a lot more energy and is sleeping better and is resting and learning the importance of rest and learning that rest is a form of resistance. And of course, if they've got more energy and they're feeling better about themselves, their creativity flourishes. And all of a sudden, Raven, who is a creative person in quite a creative job, is no longer feeling drained all the time, but quite the opposite, has the energy they need to complete their tasks at work, but also remembers that life isn't just about work. So begins to kind of pursue the creative passions that they sort of lost. By the time you get into your mid-30s and you've just been working for over a decade, you've lost all of the stuff that you used to really enjoy. And so they start to find it again. Just being creative for the sake of being creative. It's really good for you. Really good for you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And they began to set boundaries not just when it came to food, but also when it came to people. And dad no longer got to make cheeky comments about their weight. And mum no longer got to talk about diets in front of them. And nobody got to make any comments about their body or what they were eating ever again because they learned to set boundaries and they learned um, about what a healthy relationship looked like and would rather be single than be in a relationship with a dickhead, which is great. So you see, there's something really quite beautiful about ditching diet, rejecting diet culture, stepping away from diet culture. It doesn't just impact what you eat, it has a much more profound healing effect on all of you. And I just want to point out that Raven's story is not a unique one. I think it's one that many of the people listening in can relate to. And I don't think it's a linear one either. I think that I need to make it clear that yes, all in all, Raven is doing better, but Raven has bad days and bad weeks and bad months, just like the rest of us. Um, But there's something very wonderful about reminding ourselves at this time of the year that, yeah, this is where it all started. For most of us, this is where it started. So wherever you are on your journey, whether it's been decades since your last diet or whether your last diet ended last week, it doesn't matter. Or whether you're in the middle of a diet, none of that matters. What matters in the here and now, you ask yourself, am I going to continue to pursue an a lifestyle that is has been created specifically for me to fail over and over again and invest my hard-earned energy, time, and money into, just so that, the greedy kind of forces of capitalism can continue to sort of drain me like a leech. Am I going to continue to pursue that? Or am I going to say, it doesn't work? It's never worked. I know why it doesn't work. There's plenty of evidence for why it doesn't work. I'm done. I'm out. It's over. And so when I go home for the holidays and, so and so says something, or I'm reminded, or I eat a really large meal and then I feel really, really full, and then I feel a bit like I feel heavy, and I feel heavy, of course, because actually my parasympathetic nervous system has kicked in, and that is my rest and digest and sort of system. And so I'm meant to feel heavy and sleepy. It's normal, but we interpret that as I'm heavy. I'm getting heavier. You probably haven't, and even if you have, it's not a big deal. I'm getting heavier, and I'm sort of becoming lazy and slovenly and gluttonous, and I need to do something about it. And then, of course, the holidays end, and January the 1st appears, and all of a sudden, everyone's obsessed with diets, and it's all you can hear about. And even the people who are really thin are fed up of hearing about diets. So the fat people, it's just a nightmare for us. We know it's all coming. It's there, but maybe this year you're like, yeah, I'm not doing any of that. I'm opting out. I'm just saying no. I'm just done with all of it. Maybe that's something that you can do. And I I am writing a book, and 2025 is the year that I'm going to write the bulk of the book. It won't actually be finished until the beginning of 2026, but that's only a year and a bit away. Still a long way away, and it is basically 15 chapters. Each chapter is a reason why doctors really, really should never be prescribing weight loss. Not why people shouldn't pursue weight loss, because what you choose to do is absolutely your business and your business alone, but why doctors shouldn't prescribe it. And I take you through from the beginning to the end my 15 reasons why I don't believe in it. And I start off with the fact that weight loss is unsustainable. Module one is literally all about the body's defense systems and the science behind weight loss. Module two, which has just finished, or it hasn't just finished, we're in the middle of module two. Um, the module two is all about the myth of willpower. Paul Raven's story, basically. And there's a blog about it. I've just released the blog today. So you can catch the blog, and I'll link it to the show notes. So if you just want to read the science behind things, then please do. And then, of course, you can join No Way, the program, which is basically following along with the book writing process. And you can find out all of the studies that I've looked at. I talk about genetics and epigenetics and transgenerational inheritance. I talk about urbanization, and I talk about pollution. I talk about childhood trauma, trauma in adulthood. I talk about I'm trying to think what else I talk about. Uh, should have had that list up in front of me, shouldn't I? Let's go to the list, Asha. It's right here on your computer screen. I talk about the gut-brain axis. I talk about weight cycling. I talk about income disparities. I talk about food insecurity. All of these things control your weight. And I show you the evidence. Here is the evidence that these things control your weight. And then I talk about, so that's what does control your weight. And then I talk about this myth of willpower and how it's just a load of nonsense. And the lies that the diet industry tells you, the first lie is I've got to go and find it again. Oh, look at me being so disorganized. Ugh. First lie is that you just stick to the plan. Stick to the plan and it'll work. The reason it doesn't work for other people is they don't stick to the plan. But if you stick to the plan, it will work. That's lie number one. Lie number two is it's all about self-control. People who fail, it's not the diet, it's they don't have self-control. You have self-control, which is just ridiculous because like telling somebody, you know, I wrote down that hunger is the idea that hunger is a feeling that you can ignore. Self-control, just ignore your hunger. I don't cry when you're sad. Don't eat when you're hungry. Don't breathe when you're underwater. Sure, if you're underwater, you really shouldn't breathe. If you breathe, you'll choke and then you'll drown. So if you're underwater and you hold your breath, you can manage for some time. Some people can hold their breath for minutes. I've seen those really cool people that do free diving and they like literally dive, just hold their breath and dive. I mean, that's so cool. Um, Most of us can hold our breath underwater for, less than a minute. Eventually, it doesn't matter who you are. You either go to the surface and catch a breath or you drown. Those are your two options. And so this idea that you can just ignore your hunger. No, you can't. You can't. Not forever. It's the whole point of hunger. It gets louder and louder and louder because your body knows what it needs. And the third myth is that, you must always resist the impulse, always, no matter what. But it's like, okay, don't sleep. Resist the impulse to sleep, resist the impulse to breathe. You don't get shamed for needing oxygen. You don't get shamed for needing sleep. Why do you get shamed for needing to eat? Like, that's ridiculous. And this idea that fat people just like, it's all we're so about like the instant gratification. Just like, we don't know how to hold off because we don't have it in us. It's a moral failing. That's not true at all. That's such a myth perpetuated by the diet industry because let's face it, fat people often have the most self-control. I say this over and over again. But when your body is screaming for energy, you're going to eat, right? That's nothing to do with greed. That is biology. That is physiology. That is basic. So why not check out my blog? And why not join No Way? It's a small membership fee, and then you can be part of the program. You get to read the first chapters, first draft of all my chapters. You get to come to the monthly live meetups. You get to a whole load of exclusive content as well. Fantastic community on there that's really interested in the facts, not the fiction. All right. I think I'm going to wrap up. I think I'm going to fall asleep soon, if I'm honest. So this is the last but one episode of season 4. There'll be one more next week, which will be sort of season's greetings from Asha. Nothing too heavy. I will be on my emails between, so what is it? The 17th is next Wednesday. So the last one will be on the 17th. And I will be on my emails throughout the Christmas period. Obviously, give you a break over Christmas. But between Christmas and New Year, I'm planning my biggest sale ever. So make sure you're signed up to my email subscriber list, and therefore you won't miss out on any of the important stuff. And then I'm going to sweep into the new year with my New Year Same You 7-day challenge. It's just an email challenge, but basically I've decided that I'm going to be the antidote to diet culture. So it'll be New Year, Same You. We're back in January for the podcast in season 5, but when it's not over yet, I'll see you one last time next Wednesday for my final episode of season 4 of the Fat Doctor podcast. Thank you for being here today, and I hope you have a lovely week.